Hey literature folks, it's Dr. E and I'm here with the video to walk through all the guidelines, expectations, the ins and outs of our group work for this semester. Our groups are going to be called literary leagues just because, of course, why not? And these are people that you'll be placed in a group with and you will start to rely on throughout the semester. Everybody will have their own roles and responsibilities. I think sometimes the hard thing with group work is there's always that one person who doesn't do anything, and then there's that one person who does everything, right? And we don't want that. So we have a pretty equitable breakdown of roles and responsibilities, and those will be rotated throughout the semester. So if you have one week where you feel like you're not doing quite as much as these other people, it's going to rotate, right? So don't feel too concerned about that. I'm just going to jump right to it. And of course, this information is available on D2L for you to look over. So I want to emphasize that we are working in judgment-free zones. I mean, the whole class should be this way. We're not here to judge one another. We're not here to judge one another's ideas or writing or anything of that nature. We're really here to offer, discussion points and critical thinking and offering one another good responses and thoughtful responses and that kind of thing. So we're not judging one another, of course. And so we have league roles, and I'll get to those. And so because of the way our course is structured this semester, you're likely in a group of 5, and so you will have all 5 of these, but sometimes there will be groups of 4. And so this is going to be, the ball gets rolling in the second week where you and your group will be placed in a discussion area together, and you're going to go through and really focus on the different areas of the responsibility. So I have a general layout of what each position is supposed to do, but you can tailor those specifically to what your group needs. And this is something that will be very flexible, because what you need everybody to do in one week may be very different from another, because the assignments will change. One week you may have paragraphs that you need to submit as a group, and another week you may have a mind map, right? So things may need to be a little bit flexible, and that's okay. All right, so I put, this is your home base for digital discussions and connection, right? So that you can start to rely on some folks and get some insights from them. All right, so roles and responsibilities. The first is to think about the architect. So if you are the architect, your goal is really to begin the discussion. So you're going to be the person who probably needs to check into D2L early in the week. And I put like Monday because that's when I usually have everything posted. You'll see the prompt. And one good way to start the conversation is to summarize what you believe the assignment is, because I have a very particular way of wording assignments and wording things. And maybe somebody's going to benefit from hearing it put in a very different kind of way, right? I'm the same way. Like I can read, instructions from one person very differently than somebody, else, because of the way that we read and the way we write, that kind of thing. All right, so I want you to note that it doesn't mean that you're responsible for creating a post that answers all of the prompt. So if this week's assignment is that as a group you need to submit 3 paragraphs to discuss the life and writing of a particular author, your role as the architect is not to then, as early as possible, get those 3 paragraphs. No, your role is to check in, see what the prompt is, put it in your own words, and you're just starting that conversational ball rolling down the hill, right? You're not doing all the work, absolutely not. So after, summarizing it, then you start to identify the goals and, think about a timeline for that week. I want you to think about how everybody should submit, when people should submit, so that you have enough time to get everything done depending on the assignment. If other members aren't writing or sharing enough and the conversation kind of stagnates, you'll need to push or prod other members by asking questions. But if you have 5 people, the questioner is going to be that person, okay? You're also going to need to connect with the scribe to provide your feedback, edits, or suggestions about the week's discussion breakdown. So the scribe is another person with another set of responsibilities. Every member of the group is going to have to give edits and suggestions to the scribe. So that's not just specific to the architect. All right, so what the heck is the scribe? So if you are a scribe for a particular week, you're really keeping track of the conversation. So you are keeping an eye on everybody's contributions. You know, what are people saying? What are people thinking? And essentially you're going to keep track of that and have a breakdown for me to look at. So I can see, you know, this person, you know, really worked on these ideas. This person worked on these ideas. And then we all put them together at this time. However it goes for whatever you're doing that particular week, the scribe provides that breakdown, okay? So you really need to keep an eye on the discussion, okay? So I put here, in essence, you're summarizing how the discussions developed, who asked questions, who changed their mind or ideas, how the discussions were advancing ideas in that week's reading, okay? So again, it can be done in chronological order or in any way you see fit. So you are then going to, after getting the input from every single group member, you're going to send that document to the participation boss before Sunday, because the participation boss will be the one to submit all documents, okay? I put, that document needs to follow MLA formatting guidelines, but it's okay. I will have a template, don't worry. And it needs to be revised and edited, and that's why everybody is going to contribute. You're going to keep track of the conversation, and then you're going to post it. Everybody can provide their edits and suggestions, and then you'll give that to the participation boss. Okay, so what is the participation boss? I put lucky you. Your role is to collect the self-assessments from all your group members. So like I said, one thing about group work that can be difficult is that one person does a ton of the work, one person doesn't do any work, that kind of thing. But I firmly believe that if you can reflect on the work that you've done throughout the week, you'll assess yourself in a way that is useful and productive, right? I can give a grade, and I will give a grade that, that is earned, but there's something really valuable about you looking back over the work that you did in that week. So you're going to give the participation boss your grade and an explanation of that grade. So if you think, this week I just couldn't get everything done, but ultimately, I tried really hard. This week worked against me, but I think I deserve a C minus. Okay. The participation boss is going to collect all that information from every group member and put it in a form that I've created. But the participation boss can also say, hey, this person, was really hard on themselves this week, gave themselves a C minus, but I really think that given what we were supposed to accomplish this week and the timeline that we had put forth, this person really did solid B work. So the participation boss has some insights into that grade, because sometimes people are way too hard on themselves, and then sometimes people are way too lenient on themselves. So some person might say, I did amazing work, I deserve an A+, and the participation boss can put in a little note to me that says, this person just did kind of the basics, nothing above and beyond that deserves an A+, maybe a B+. Okay. Ultimately, I'm going to go into everything and check and give the grade that is earned, but having you reflect on it, I just think is really valuable, and it helps me. All right, so the chief communicator, well, let me jump back to the participation boss real quick. So you're going to upload the assessment form with the grades, but also the document that the scribe puts together. So it is your responsibility as the participation boss to upload all the documents. So only one person has to worry about that. So that it's not a bunch of different group members submitting things and, oh, did this person submit it? One person. As the chief communicator, the next role, you get to be the chatty one. You're really working to ensure that people are engaged. So much like the scribe, you are paying attention to the conversation. If at a certain point in the week you see that one person just hasn't shown up, you reach out to that person, right? You make sure that everybody knows the timeline for that particular week, understands who's responsible for what. So you're the communicator, but you can do that in whatever way you want. If it's not in the discussion board, because that can just overload with too many discussion posts, maybe you've agreed as a group that texting is the way to go. Maybe you want to use something like Discord or Remind or any of those kinds of things. You as a group just need to agree on that. All right. So I put, if your group has some specific questions for me, you're responsible for sending those concerns my way or posting in the Q&A discussion area. So again, you're the communicator, right? And then there's the questioner, and I put, should you exist, little unicorn? Your goal is to actively ensure that other folks are working efficiently, right? You'll need to reach out to the architect and ask for their input on what additional assistance is needed for that week. So maybe the architect set up a particular timeline and the architect wants to make sure that that timeline seems feasible, so you provide the architect with that feedback. Or maybe, the chief communicator says, hey, can you reach out to this person? They haven't responded to me. So you're the second in line for a lot of these roles and responsibilities, particularly if somebody else maybe doesn't show up that week. That will never happen though, right? All right, so I put here, this, I know y'all, this is a lot of information, so let it kind of sit. You're going to be working this week to kind of make a more group specific plan. So I put here some questions to think about. What is a good timeline for the work each week? And again, this may change depending on the kind of work that is due. So we need to decide what method of communication should the chief communicator employ to nudge, remind, what's the way? Should everyone check in on Monday? Or maybe only the architect does for that week and checks the assignment? Or should everybody already be in the discussion area that week or that part of the week? By when should everyone post their initial response to the prompt? When should responses be posted? So the way that our syllabus schedule is set up is that discussion posts are due Thursday, responses are due Sunday. But maybe you want to change that particular week because you have something that's a little bit different. You need to get everything done by Saturday for whatever reason. Officially, the due time for the discussion posts will be Thursday, but that's just according to, just a document that I've set up. You as a group have something that's a little bit more specific. And again, it may fluctuate that week depending on what you need. All right. So by when should everyone provide feedback to the scribe's breakdown, right? So this is something definitely you want to consider because the scribe is going to be keeping track of everything and then put it together in a document. That person will then share it with everybody for revisions and suggestions and edits. So by when do you need that feedback as the scribe? All right, by when should everyone have their assessment submitted to the participation boss each week, right? In order to give yourself a kind of accurate grade, you probably need to wait till later in the week. But you don't want to wait till Sunday at 11:59 p.m. when everything's due, right? The participation boss has already submitted the self-assessment form, maybe without your grade on it. Agree on a date, agree on a time for that particular week. This is partly the responsibility of the architect, is to kind of set up that week if you need to change, some of the decisions you made in this upcoming week when you really flesh out the roles and responsibilities. Okay. By when should the participation boss submit that assessment form and breakdown, right? Some of you will not want to wait until 11:59 p.m. on Sunday for that person to submit, because what happens if that person falls away? Who's taking on those responsibilities, right? So maybe instead of 11:59 p.m., you agree on 5 p.m. on Sundays at the latest, or, whatever the case may be, okay? So for the general discussion related to that week's prompt, how often should each person post to contribute equitably? So I put, often there will be an assigned number of sentences or paragraphs for that week's post. So those technically, again, have the due date and time of Thursday, but that is flexible depending on what your group needs. Does the group want to have their initial posts done by Wednesday, then the scribe posts the breakdown by Thursday, that kind of thing. Y'all, what level of participation relates to that grade of A, B, C, D, F, right? Again, these are all things that may change in a given week, but I want you to really create an initial plan. So that can be the basic, and then whenever you need to stray from that basic kind of timeline and those basic choices, you can do that, right? All right, what happens if one group member doesn't participate? Will another league member then take on that additional role? Typically with 5 people in a group, the questioner is going to naturally take on that needed responsibility and role. So that may be a problem that's already solved for you, but what happens if not? And I put lastly, and don't waste too much time on this, what's your group name? Like, let's not be group 1, group 2, group 3. Let's have some fun with this. We're a literature course, so consider creating a name that's related to Literary terminology, authors, text titles. I put some really nerdy examples here, which you're free to use if you want, but it's fun to also spend some time coming up with the name. Don't spend all the time. All the other stuff is going to be more important, but the name is something that will just make this a bit more fun. So if you have any questions, reach out to me in the Q&A area of the discussion board, shoot me an email, whatever you need, but good luck this semester with your literary leagues.